this episode, we look at the riots that occur when English football hooligans follow the national team.
Nobody can stop the English when they go in numbers. No one will stop them.
Being involved in disorder with a group of hooligans abroad at an England match is a claim to fame for them.
And we see how England fans were attacked at Marseille in 1998.
I've just been fucking tear-gassed.
Football hooliganism is known as the English disease throughout Europe. This is ironic because until the mid-60s, British teams wouldn't even take part in continental tournaments for fear of the violence that went with the matches. But once the English fans had started to follow the teams abroad in vast numbers, pouring off cheap charter flights like a marauding army, the European cities didn't know what had hit them. In Heysel, 1985, 39 supporters died after a wall collapsed during a match between Juventus and Liverpool. This horrific accident led to the European ban of English clubs. It looked like the end of the English thug abroad, but it wasn't. They just put aside their local differences, teamed up and started causing mayhem as followers of the national side. At Euro 88, English hooligans fought with the Germans and Dutch in the streets of Frankfurt and Dusseldorf.
It is hard to find words. Some people have called them animals. I would say that I think that's almost too kind to them.
2 years later at the World Cup in Italy, English hooligans rioted in Turin and Cagliari. And at the next major tournament they were at it again, this time in Malmö, Sweden. 3 years on, and a so-called friendly match between England and the Republic of Ireland is abandoned after 27 minutes, when English hooligans, many of them linked to the far right, go berserk. By the end of the 90s, the English fans had the worst reputation for violence and hooliganism in the world. So they shouldn't be surprised when they go away and find the locals, the police and the press are ready to jump them. This is exactly what happened in Marseille. England were playing Tunisia in their opening game of the World Cup, and for 2 days before the match, both sets of fans had been involved in 10 standoffs in Marseille's bars and squares. What happened here in Marseille is a great example of how England supporters behave abroad. But here, it was the England fans who upped the ante. It was the usual story. Huge gangs of bare-chested, beer-bellied, tattooed monsters, burning flags and encouraging the rival gangs to have a go. And what is the result? Of course, violence. Andrew Porter is a self-confessed hooligan who was in the thick of it at Marseille.
Everybody knew it to go off in Marseille. It's the roughest city in France to say, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's the biggest immigration and all that. So
It wasn't even French fans that were attacking you, it was just the local gangs.
local, yeah, well, yeah.
Criminals and what have you.
Well, that's it. Yeah, we were fairly rough. Yeah.
So that was a different setup, wasn't it? It wasn't.
Yeah, but wherever you go to Germany,
Yeah.
you fight with the Turks. You go to when we went to Euro 2000, we're fighting with the Turks in Brussels. You know what I mean? You always get the local youths wanting to have a pop at the English because the English have got the best reputation in the world. So you always get the locals who want to take.
And does that make you feel? Does that make you proud to be English?
Of course it does, yeah.
Right then.
You know what I mean? We are the top dogs.
But it was exactly this hooligan history that was about to rebound on the England fans. The French police were determined to come down hard on any aggro and were keen not to be shown up like their fellow European colleagues. They swooped, dishing out tear gas and kicks up the arse. Snatch squads moved in, pulling perceived ringleaders away from the trouble.
One fan aimed a kick at a Tunisian supporter. The police spotted him and he was bundled away by half a dozen officers. the Marseille police did not hold back.
By nightfall, the port area looked like a battleground. At this point in the proceedings, England fan Eddie Brimson had arrived at Marseille train station with his video camera. He was blissfully unaware that he was about to be caught in the crossfire between English and local gangs.
Well, here we are. We've arrived and we're in Marseille. We got a room. I'm sharing it with 5 other lads. Should be 4 of us in there, but there's going to be 6. And we're out for our first beer. So let's go and have a laugh.
Eddie found a bar and was inside ordering his first beer of the holiday when the chair he had reserved for himself outside came crashing through the window.
Literally, just as I handed the money over, one of the windows come through, and I thought, hang on, that's not right. And as I went outside, there was a group of local French, mainly looked like North African lads, attacking the bar, and lads having to go back at them outside. Well, this is Marseille on the opening night, isn't it? Fucking lovely. That ain't England fans, is it? The French lads come tooled up. They had a lot of stuff with them already, wooden chair legs and things like that. One of the lads had a pretty crap, has to be honest, a petrol bomb which was thrown down into the middle of the road. And I think that was a signal like they mean business here, this is going to happen and this is going to go any minute, and so it did. If you're used to being, obviously you've been in situations like that, you only have to step back a bit to be able to see it from the side and not get involved in it. I felt I was all right, but I knew when it was time to move on. I was mostly pissed off because I just bought a whole round of drinks, which I didn't get to drink.
Eddie walked away unharmed, but others weren't so lucky. By now, the locals were targeting any English supporter within reach.
The story that was going around is like, don't stand by the side of the road, because supposedly there was young lads bombing around on scooters with someone on the back, and they'd come up onto the pavement and slice people, and a few people did get cut.
England's hooligan reputation had clearly gone before them, and the locals had obviously come prepared.
Yeah, it was quite frightening. There was all the Tunisians had knives and bats. One guy even had an axe, chased us up the road. We was running up the street, a load of French attacked our pub. We went up the street after them, and 2 doormen come out with bats. Just local doormen on the nightclub. Just started hitting the English, didn't hit the French, started hitting all the English, just because we're English.
As some England fans snoozed, others continued to take on the locals. There was clearly aggression from both sides, but the French police didn't put too much effort into arresting the locals. Here you can see them pulling some locals out of a car, but when they resist, the police simply give up. The French police seemed far more interested in arresting England fans and had by now swapped their tactics from tear gas to dogs. One of the England fans arrested was Andrew Porter.
We went back to the van and my mate, they chuck it iron into the locals. And my mate got it on leg weight, shattered his bone, right through his, right through.
What were they throwing at you?
Big ironies, like what they play bulls with or something.
Oh really, what, those balls?
Yeah. So we had to get...
Not right, is it?
So we tried to get away in the van, but we were all pissed up. So we just kept crashing the van. So my mate was going into shock, he had to hold his leg together. So got all lads to get away from the van, stopped with my mate, got another lad to ring ambulance, police come nick me and this other lad.
The English football hooligan isn't going to win any awards for diplomacy. As ambassadors go, they're probably the worst we've got. When they travel abroad, they don't eat the food, they don't talk the language. In fact, the only language they do like is a language of alcohol and violence. But as shocked supporters at Marseille had discovered, the French police weren't too bothered about the difference between a hooligan and a genuine football fan.
It was horrendous. I mean, we were walking around the town trying to have a beer and that, and you just couldn't go in it. and the CRS, the police were chasing you around the town, and the Tunisians were behind them with bottles, and they were throwing the bottles, and they were over the police's arms, and they're just throwing at you, and then every time some trouble happened, we were charged with CS gas. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's a scandal.
After the break, the trouble escalates on match day as riots break out by the stadium, the harbour and on the beach.
I've just been fucking tear gassed.
Coming up, tear gas and mayhem in Marseille as a full-scale riot breaks out.
Every single England fan here is so fucked off.
It's June 1998 and England are playing Tunisia in the World Cup finals in the French city of Marseille. For over 48 hours, there's been hand-to-hand fighting between English hooligans and local French North Africans.
It has taken just a few hundred fans to launch England's World Cup campaign with violence. Exactly what the French authorities and the England team did not want.
So why do England fans so regularly go on the rampage? Well, you've got the football, the physical confrontation with the other fans, the alcohol, and the genuine belief that we really do have the right to rule the world. I mean, this is what we were brought up on, isn't it? When match day finally came, it was a beautiful summer's day. And outside the stadium, there was a carnival atmosphere, despite the preceding 2 days of violence between the rival fans. In fact, things were so relaxed, this fellow had even brought his lunch along. I'd predict a fry-up. But hidden amongst the happy football fans were hardcore hooligans, and it was all about to go off.
No police, no segregation, but trouble. These the scenes just outside the ground as the two teams were warming up inside. Hundreds of rival fans attacking each other. There were injuries, there were arrests. For England and Tunisia, this the beginning of what is meant to be a festival of football.
Matt Reid was at the stadium that day filming a group of England supporters for a documentary.
You knew that it was pretty much inevitable that at some point during that day it was going to go off.
Stay here, safely. Konnichiwa!
Matt's footage reveals some typical traits of football crowd behaviour in a tense atmosphere.
We're on the main drag outside the stadium, and I was filming Paddy. He was talking to me. Suddenly, like 200 or 300 people just charged towards us for no apparent reason, other than obviously there was some sort of riot or skirmish going on 100 yards up the road. And your reaction when you feel these people, when you see these people coming towards you, is just to run too. And we just stood our ground, I suppose. And sure enough, the other side of the running mob, there was nothing there. People were just running from everyone else running.
You know, in football gangs, in football violence, there's a herd mentality, and if you really look at a lot of footage of football, what you'll mainly see of football violence is mainly see a lot of people running. You won't actually see a lot of fighting.
What was happening then, Paddy?
Ah, they just run and they ain't got no bottle of it. Run, they're like sheep. Running. Aye?
Meanwhile, Eddie Brimson had recovered from his close shave the night before and was busy looking for a ticket like thousands of other England fans.
Well, we decided to fuck off down the beach because no chance of getting a ticket. The person who ripped us off most of all was a Scouser, who was asking 200 quid, which is bang out of order. Still, there you go. We'll go down, watch it on the beach and go from there.
Yeah.
The authorities in Marseille had erected a huge video screen on Prado Beach for the fans, like Eddie, that didn't manage to get tickets for the game.
Look at that. Perfect English holiday family. Dad brings them on holiday. Says, you go down the beach, love, and I'll just go in and watch the football. What's up, man?
Eddie settled down to watch the game along with a few thousand unsegregated England and Tunisian fans. Everything was going well, but then England scored. At this point, all hell broke loose. Tunisian supporters occupying one of the stands at the back of the beach started pelting the cheering England fans with bottles and anything else they could get their hands on.
England have just scored, and it's gone right off. Big time. The thing that kicked it all off, all the England fans were at the front by where the big screen was, and someone launched like a firecracker rocket from that stand directly into where the English fans were. And all of a sudden the whole atmosphere just went, whoa, here we go, this is going to go any minute. And then England scored, more missiles from that stand started to come at the English, and basically the English fans were trapped up against the fence. There was nowhere to go. And it just went on and on and on, waiting for the police to come in to do something. They didn't appear, and so the England fans took it upon themselves to sort it out themselves and just chased the Tunisians out.
The England fans waited in vain for the French police to arrive and sort out the situation, but they soon realised that they were on their own and began to organise counter-charges at the missile-throwing Tunisians, urged on by their very own drummer. Then, to their relief, the cavalry finally showed up, only to turn their tear gas on the shocked and outraged England fans. Once again, England's reputation as a hooligan nation had rebounded on the ordinary fan.
I've just been fucking tear gassed, and this is what it fucking feels like. It's not very nice. Oh dear.
As soon as you'd have scored, Tunisians started throwing bottles at us, bricks, everything. English are going to stand there, women, kids, children, wives just stopped there, protected the kids and children and ran them back.
Fucking 5-year-olds.
You know what I mean? You have to stand there, don't you? You've got to stand your ground, whatever. No, look after your own country. And that's what happened. It's not English on tour, it's English sticking up for English.
Every single England fan here is so fucked off because you've seen the film, they're the ones throwing the stuff, the police are standing there doing nothing, and they tear gas the English.
Eddie did finally manage to catch the end of the match in a local bar and saw England winning 2-0. But back in the UK, he was shocked to discover that the English media version of events was rather different to what he thought he'd witnessed.
When I got back home, I couldn't believe the way the media had covered that whole event.
From early morning, the glass has been breaking in Marseille. 12 hours of rampaging violence begun by English fans, but involving both sets.
The way the footage was cut to make it look like it was the England fans that instigated that riot was... to this day, I'm ashamed of the way the media work in this country. It was disgusting what I saw.
England supporters raining bottles down on passing Tunisians. Some of them sought cover, others were chased.
As a 5 years overseas in England, I never see that. During the Blitz, yes, but not like that. The football is a game, it's another war.
Very ashamed for your young people.
But perhaps the press's emphasis on the English hooligans, rather than the actions of the French police or the Tunisian hooligans, was only to be expected. The media has been instrumental in building the ferocious image of the English hooligan. It expects the lads to go into battle when they go abroad to follow the national team. And, you know, they'd probably be gutted if there wasn't any violence to report on, because there is a genuine reader-viewer appetite for these sorts of images in our news.
England fans on the rampage. They are attacking anything that moves. It is a battleground.
After Marseille, the British press were unanimous in condemning the English fans, and yet there were some surprising voices of support.
It is just a fact of life that British football supporters are now targeted by the police and by the authorities wherever they go. And I think that the British government and the British public and the British press should be supporting them.
Later, drawing upon his own military historian background, Alan Clark MP said, "Football matches are now a substitute for the old medieval tournaments. They are, in their nature, aggressive and confrontational." The 79-year-old Marchioness of Reading went even further, saying, "I rejoice in the fact that there are people who keep up our historic spirit." In 2004, thousands of English fans attended the European finals in Portugal, and there was hardly any trouble whatsoever. But this summer, there's an estimated 100,000 fans going to go to the World Cup in Germany. The British government have now invested millions on football hooligan intelligence and have already banned 3,000 people from travelling to the games this summer. Will this sort of policing mean the end of the English football hooligan abroad?
The UK police work very closely with foreign police forces to ensure that the disorder is kept to the minimum. As it stands today, we're probably in the strongest position combating football violence that the police service has been for 30 years. Money has been made available by the government to combat the problem. Whether we can stop it fully, I'm not sure.
Next time on I Predict a Riot, global rioting as anti-capitalists take the streets.
What's our world coming to, eh? Well, maybe Donald McIntyre has the answers. He's here next to head off into North London to investigate the ongoing war between Kurdish and Turkish drug gangs. Britain's toughest towns is after the break.